All right. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good morning, good morning, and good morning. Yeah. It's the much awaited Virtual Educators Conference. And then I like to say welcome to everyone. You're welcome to the platform. Welcome to EAZY-DIGI Tech Solutions. Yeah. So I just like to say a few things about us, and then we'll get into the show for the day. And I tell you, it promises to really be an exciting, promises to really be an awesome time. You're really going to have the best of time this morning. Okay, so quickly, I'm Alomaji Adebayo, the head of research and operations from EasyDJ Tech Solutions, and then I'm glad to be here. So this conference, just a few things about the conference and about the purpose of the conference. Yeah, so why we decided to put this together for the year, and and just based on what is happening. Yeah, so one of the major essence of this conference is to provide a platform for educators in this part of the world to be supported, to be inspired, and to be encouraged. So we understand that blended learning is actually not taking a good turn for educators here, and then there's really a need for a lot of support. All right, so we need to inspire them. We need to let them know that they are not alone. All right, so we are very much concerned about the survival of our education community, and so want to make sure that everything that is needed, even as small as putting a program together like this, and then regularly on a monthly basis. All right, so educators come around, they get fired up, they get inspired, and then they get back to their schools and see how they can create a better learning environment. And when this begins to happen, so we have a community of people who have been inspired to do better as an educator. All right, so that's just the major focus of this conference, and it's all about 21st century learning design and realities. We want to get educators to be aligned, um, with the 21st century learning design and realities, and also get them to function in that capacity. All right, so we really want to get educators in this part of the world to become more familiar with the 21st century learning design. So we have discovered that many teachers don't really understand what the 21st century learning design is all about. Okay, so I mean, if you are a teacher in the 21st century, then you should really know a lot about the 21st century learning design. All right, it's really very critical. All right, so we really want to get a lot of teachers to understand what this looks like, and to really get very familiar with the 21st century learning design. Okay, so this morning, yeah, that's much of what we're going to be doing. All right, so we are honored and blessed to have a number of speakers on the platform this morning, and they are going to be sharing with us, ideas. All right, so it's going to be all of scenario-based learning. They're going to be sharing case studies, scenarios of how they have applied the 21st century learning design, and how we can also apply the same, similar stuffs, all right, to create a better learning environment. All right, so it's all about everyone on board coming, creating better learning environments. All right, so I promise you, it's really going to be so inspiring. It's really, really going to be so inspiring. Yeah, so don't miss out, and please stay connected. All right, so I promise we won't stay too long online, and it's really going to be all of fun. It's really so much going to be all of fun. All right, just like I mentioned again at the beginning. All right, so as we go on in the session, feel free to share your thoughts. All right, that's cool. You can ask your questions. Make use of the chat section. You can ask your questions. We're going to take it down, and then we're going to respond to your questions as you put them up. So feel free, please, to relay to share your questions uh as we go on in the session today. We'd like to hear from you. All right, so we are streaming this session on YouTube. So on YouTube, you will only be able to make use of text. All right, so but you can do that, and as you do that, we're going to be seeing it right here in the studio, and we are going to be responding to all of your questions. And for everything you say, of course, you will know we're getting it from here. All right, so once again, thank you for as many that have joined us. So we understand that a lot of persons are trying to also connect at this time. Yeah, and so there could be network issues and all of that. All right, so we'll be we are still here, and it promises to be a great time. All right, so yeah, yeah. So this morning we have two sessions. We have two amazing speakers that will be joining us on the on the show. We have Mari from USA, and we also have Sally from South Africa. So I've got so much to say about these people. I've really got so much to say about these people. I've got so much to say. All right, so but time won't permit me to say much about them. All right, so we're gonna be getting into the first session, and then before we get into the first session is gonna be handled by Mari, and Mari's online. She's in the studio already with me. So I'm gonna be bringing her up. But I've few times I've got to discuss with Mari. I was sharing with a friend in Dubai, and I was like, come on, this lady I met recently, if I can use this word, that she's really disruptolic. you know the few conversations we've had, and the 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 tone of the conversation, and sincerely, that's really amazing. So this is it. We really cannot continue to do things the way we have, to put things the way they have been, because so many changes are really on us. And so the school is not an independent institution, and so it's very important for the school as a learning institution to also change all of its approach, beginning from administration to the way learning is being approached, and everything about the school. So it's really an issue. All right, so and we believe that this morning we're going to have school administrators on board joining us too, and educators and also school leaders. And you're really going to be seeing a lot of things, that you can imbibe, that you can put across, all right, in changing the tone of your learning uh institutions. All right, so quick one. Yeah, so quick one. I'm going to open the floor and allow for Mari to join us. Mari is an because where do I start from? Where do I start from about Mari now? Okay, so much. Okay, I'm just gonna pick up our profile on LinkedIn and just try to just stay on that so I don't talk too much. So Mari is an instructional designer. Yeah, so she's a curriculum developer. She's an e-learning builder. She's a learning experience designer. She's a corporate trainer. She's a consultant. Yeah, she's an consultant. She's an educational leader. Right? She's an equity specialist, and so more and so more on the list to say about Mary. All right. So, but little time I've discussed with her, I can see the passion. Of course, she's gonna come on board now. You see what I'm talking about. All right. So this is why I relax and allow Mary to take the stage and take us on a wonderful journey into the 21st century learning design and realities as she says a lot of stuff to us. All right. So, Mary, are you there? Can you hear me?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you so
Oh,
much
great.
for
Oh,
inviting
great.
me. Thank you,
Oh,
Mr.
great.
Obadiah. Thank
Yeah,
you.
you're welcome. All right. So quickly, I'm going to leave the stage for you now, and then you're going to take over also with your slide, and then you're just going to go ahead. All right. So, and if you need my help or anything, you can let me know. All right. I'll be with you.
Awesome.
Stay connected. All
I
right.
just wanted to know if everyone can see my, oh, you can see it?
Yeah, I can see it.
Awesome. Awesome, awesome. I am so excited to be here and to speak this morning. Yes, I am trying to disrupt our learning, and you will see why it is imperative to start getting on board. And I'm going to take you through a couple of scenarios that I had worked through as a kindergarten teacher, and also what it looks like at the 6th grade level. And if we have any additional questions, I would love to talk to you about the design process and all of these different things. So there's so much that we have to get through, and I'll get started now. Thank you so much for inviting me again. So I would like to talk about the future of education. And let me go to my next slide and just let you know who I am. My main ideas that I am looking and researching right now is, of course, revolves around equity, problem-based inquiry learning, and also community accountability, because you can have inquiry learning without the community accountability. And I think the community accountability portion is the most essential thing that needs to be added at the end of your inquiry learning. So we have to start discussing what that looks like, right, in our end product. I am currently earning my degree at USC, the University of Southern California, in Los Angeles, California. I live right outside of Los Angeles, California, and Moreno Valley, California, in the United States. So hello from California. And I actually had a wonderful journey in my education career. I have been a teacher for 15 years, and I actually went overseas to teach in the Abu Dhabi Reformation Project, and ended up doing a lot of coaching and training of teachers on best practices in ESL and second language acquisition. And when we came back here to America, we settled in California, and I had taught kindergarten. Within that program, I had implemented the social emotional learning program at my school, as well as started to create the project-based learning programs as well. So the social emotional learning piece to build that community of learners was essential, and went in the first year, and then that next year we overlaid the project-based learning. So I'm going to talk to you today about what that looked like when we did that. So one of the major ideas from about a couple of years ago when I started my equity work was, it came from Anderson's piece that is called The Education of Blacks in the South from 1860 to 1935. And what he said in that book really laid into me, and you can, even if you want to, in the chat box, kind of, you know, put a discussion up of what does this make you feel, this quote. And this quote specifically is pretty much set me on my path to my moral purpose in what I do in my work and why I get up every day. Education is the long struggle between two social systems, one system of slavery and peasantry on one hand, and the other system of capitalism on the other hand. And so as I started thinking about this particular quote and how the education system in America has really placed its sting in the Black community, especially after Reconstruction, after formerly enslaved Black people got out of slavery, we wanted our education. And what happened was, due to us starting to get very good with our education during Reformation, by the time the Reformation Bureau of Education, by the time they got to us in the South, literally we had so many schools already built, they couldn't even count them all, thousands. And we ran our own schools because we saw what the education system was doing to the indigenous population, our first world population here in America. And we said we didn't want that. We wanted to run our own. So when they burnt our schools down, we just built another school. And that's how important education was to Black African Americans who came over and enslaved and got out of slavery, right? What happened was we started learning. We started renegotiating our contracts, negotiating more. We started winning office seats, and they got upset, right? And so that's when the beginning of, you know, the terrorism started happening in our communities, them burning things down, running us out, burning us out of houses, and Jim Crow laws and segregation started, okay? It started because we fought for and we wanted our education. So it is a myth that Africans, African Americans, Blacks, that we do not want our education. We do. But the thing is, we have to be taught correctly, right? So what I'm going to show you, and let me make sure I'm going to the next slide. So what I want to show you is the last 4 years, I have, like I said, been a kindergarten teacher, and people say, oh, you can't do all of this stuff with kindergarten. And I did. So I just want to show you a very quick 2-minute video of something that I wanted. And if somebody can come on, if there's sound, I did push that I wanted sound, but if you cannot hear, please put it in the chat box so I can try to fix it. This originally was not with sound anyway, because it played in the background as we were doing some of our projects and showing our projects, but I put sound to it just recently. So hope you enjoy. So, oh, I forgot to put like an extra little picture, but hopefully what you can see from that video is how I worked actually in a rural part of California. So I would drive maybe about an hour and a half into the desert every day. And there they had a national park, which is a very popular national park called Joshua Tree National Park. So we partnered with Joshua Tree National Park. You saw how the students started their journey at National Park in order to get an idea of what would inspire an artist. And the whole idea of that project was how our artists, every grade level had their own question that had to deal with the national park. Our question for kindergarten was, how does the artist community, or how does Joshua Tree National Park impact the artist community in our community, pretty much? And so they were to become artists. And what happened was we started different iterations of them drawing various different landscapes. And when we went to the park, they talked about the different animals that were in the park. They talked about the different landscape. They talked about all of this. So these had to do with all of my science standards, right? If you're talking about trying to tie in your standards. From there, I went into having them look at perspective, big and small. We would do counting activities. We would try to put in scale and measurements into their drawings. If you noticed, I would take the kids outside all the time during this time. And what I did was, because we're kindergartners, I enlisted some of my older students. I had a partnership with the 6th grade class where they would come and they would help different days of the week. And then towards the end there, as we started developing our wonderful masterpieces, we also started doing photography. So we wanted to make sure that students had different mediums that they used, whether it was drawing and sketching, colored pencils. We also partnered with a nonprofit called Spark Growth. And what they do is they tie in literacy into our project and weaved literacy into our project, and had them also do another activity. And they brought Polaroid cameras for them to take pictures at the national park when we were there. And then they took those pictures and created art out of the picture that they took from the Polaroid that they took from the national park. And they used perspective in art as well. So there were lots of things that went in. This happened for a whole semester. This just wasn't one day of class. And it wasn't something where it was like, okay, everybody, now we're going to work on our problem-based learn. It's just something that we interweaved into their normal day, and it felt very normal because we were already studying landforms. So it was wonderful to study landforms and then go outside and start working on our perspectives. From there, and I'm looking at the time, let me hurry up and get through this. From there, we interweaved technology. And we had them work with green screens and take some of their photography they did and put it on green screens. We also worked on their writing, so they became authors. Every child wrote their page in a book based off of a photo that they took. And then we created the book, sent it off to a children's book publisher, and they sent back books for our students and their parents to enjoy. And from there, lastly, I found a kid-friendly art site where they could take, and this was the major thing here, and this is where we're going back and we're feeding back into the community again. Here we go. The last question was, you've done all of this wonderful work, how do artists make money? How do they make this a real profession? And they said, we don't know, get a job. And I said, no, you already did the work. You already did the job. And so from there, I showed them the website, a kid-friendly website called artsonia.com, where we went on, we were able to set up our classes as a school. And then what they do is they upload their art to the web, and parents were able to buy different items from t-shirts to mugs to keychains with their child's art on it. And our class made money off of the parents purchasing different items. Now, when we presented ourselves to Joshua Tree in a big reveal at the end of our project, we had the video going in the background. We had our books. We took actual green screen photos of people who wanted to place themselves in the desert. And now we are now not just, hey, we're here, we're doing our project. Now we are sharing our project, our desert, with the world, and anyone can take a look at their book and take a look at their art, right? So it's one of those things where you have to learn how to amplify student voice after they have done their work. Problem posing. Paulo Freire talks about problem posing, and he talks about making sure that as teachers and as educators, if we are looking at an oppressed population, that we must create opportunities to visit their world and not just to deposit information into them in order for them to regurgitate it back. That's called a banking system, right, of education. But we have to be co-learner with our kids, and we have to create learning work communities within our classroom, right? Let me just show you what this looks like at the 6th grade level very quickly, because I know I'm running out of time. I don't want to hog the stage. But what I did with 6th grade, I had the lowest 6th graders. I was there to tutor them, and they wanted me to teach them how to narrate writing. And the first thing I did, and I was going to go off and show you the different websites that I showed them, but I'll just talk about it. Step 1 was I talked to them about, characters, and do they have backgrounds, stories for their characters. Now, I just released Alexandria's World, which is a culturally responsive curriculum teaching about various cultures, about a toddler going to different cultures and visiting different countries with her mother and father, a book story. And I showed them the characters, but I didn't just create characters. I actually had a backstory for all of my characters, and I showed them the different backstories that my characters had. And so I showed them what I was in the process of creating, which made them want to say, I can do this too. And from there, I had them develop a toolbox of characters. So when they're doing their writing prompt in class or on a test, then they would be able to pull from their bank of characters that they already have. And then they just incorporate whatever reading they were looking at in order to create their story. The next thing we did was we did a series of plots. And so we talked about plots. We talked about what made a good plot. We read stories together and talked about what made that a good plot for their story. But that wasn't, and then I had them create different scenarios, different plots. Why? Because when you got, hey, I'm not going to teach you the test, but you're going to be ready and prepared for your test, right? So let's have fun doing it. Now, I'm going to tell you, I had some of the lowest students. And I mean, teachers would just point them out and say, this one right here. And I think the lowest student that I had, that the teacher pointed out to me, said, that one right there is the lowest. She had the best characters, the best plots. They're really into it because they're not just sitting there writing. They're sitting and they are creating. And these are stories and plots and characters that they can just insert to their everyday. So I said, you guys are trying to think about your characters, think about your plots, where you will already have them created. And then all you got to do is just pull which characters you want, pull what plot line you want, and then go from there. And they were prepared. Then COVID happened. So my step 3 didn't really happen last year. So I'm sorry. But the next step for them was to do something called querying. And I have a website called querytracker.com. And this is a website where you can go live with various book agents and publishing companies, and you can query them. You can send them your manuscript. They will say yay or nay. And I said, you know, the idea is you're going to be ready for your little test, but I want you to be an author. Now, in order to query, it takes a different writing skill. So we would have had to research what makes a good query, because pretty much you're writing a pitch for your book and you're trying to sell your book. So now, not only have I taught you narration and how to write a narration, now I have taught you how to write a persuasion letter to try to pitch your idea and persuade them to look at your manuscript. And I was like, now what if one of my babies got picked up last year and for real had a book? And I think that's the biggest thing. We have to look at technology nowadays, and we have to think about how are we going to amplify the voices of our students, and how are we going to get their voice out to the world, because the world through technology is flat now, and everybody is ready to look for something new, unique, and wonderful. And guess what? They love kids. The world loves kids. And so you just have to look. And if you notice, for my kindergartners, I looked for kid-safe places to display, meaning that everything was protected and the parents needed to sign off. Did they want it visible? Did they not want it visible? So there's extra steps, but those extra steps are rewarding, because when the parents see everything that you have done for their child and making their child loving their work and loving their school, and you're still hitting those standards, okay? But we're talking about a different way. And then I want to talk to you very quickly. I'm just going to wrap up here. I want to talk to you about my why. And in my research, I am actually studying the Fourth Industrial Revolution, and I am studying the impact that this next industrial revolution, this next technological jump, will have an impact Black and Hispanic children, Black and brown children in America. We are really behind the curve in this area as far as how to correctly educate our children. Now, I will let you know that there are schools that are preparing their children correctly. And you know what schools those are. There are certain countries that are preparing their citizens. They call it Education 4.0. And these are some of the competencies that you are going to see within Education 4.0. This is how you can tell that they are really preparing their children, their population, their school for the future of work. And that is the biggest thing that we have to prepare for. You think that you just following this, no. You following the processes of the past, no, no, no. And as a matter of fact, project-based learning, problem-based learning, problem inquiry learning, whatever you would like, whatever process you would like to use in this, guess what? That is the 3.0 model. A 4.0 model means that you are really looking at how to accelerate the remote learning. You are really looking at that creativity, the global citizenship, and looking at skill sets, not content. Because content is via computer. We've got computers all over. And people and teachers want to really argue with me on that fact. Well, the computer can it can die and you won't be able to. Well, there's workarounds. That it's about to get into. We're not about to just see a technological jump that's happening. That's not what's happening right now. Right now, we are actually going to see cyber cyber humans happening. Okay, this is going to be the difference between ordinary, I'm a regular person and I'm fully human, and people who are using technology within their bodies in order to jump to a whole other level. And so if we are not being creative right now and bringing out those creative talents, if we are not bringing out the problem solving and giving them real life experiences, then we are at this point harming our children. So they have to have a strong sense of technology, a strong sense of design thinking models, especially how to do rapid iterations, an entrepreneurial mindset, and major creativity. So this is all I have for you. I thank you so much. And I'm sorry if I went over my time. I get very passionate about this work and about future. Oh, I can't hear anything.
Yeah, Mary, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear
Great,
you now.
great, great. Thank you so much. That was explosive. That was so much powerful. All right. I need to start by thanking you for so much you have been able to do with those kids. All right. I need to thank you for being the kind of educator that you are, and for putting all of the for having those kids, go through that experience. Thank you so much for doing that for those kids. I'm sure they will never live to forget that experience. I'm sure they will never forget that experience. Yeah, they will never. Thank you so much for being that, and also thank you so much for these powerful ideas. I was putting there a lot of stuffs. And one of the things you mentioned at the beginning, was the fact that you have to partner with that national park in California to just to
Yeah.
create a learning experience. And I'm just going to take this time to address that. Because most of the time what we have mostly in this part of the world is the word excursion. Because there are so many things that right now we need to cut off from the system. Things like that, excursion. So excursion as we have it here is like, it's just always a special time where kids go out all in mass, and the idea of going out is just for fun purpose. It's not really for learning as much like that. All right. So it's not really designed actually to be a platform to achieve your qualitative learning experience. Right? It's just the everybody, let's go out, let's go do for. All right, but this experience you shared is pointing to the fact that if we are going out, we're not just going out for excursion. All right, so that can be a strong avenue to create a whole world of learning experiences for the kids, right? And do so much. Look at what you've done. Look at what you've been able to put together with the kids. Like I was telling some teachers, so why do you have to always stay in the classroom all the time? I mean, it's so. I know you have something to say about that. Why do you have? I
Yeah.
was asking them, why do you have to stay in the classroom all the time? Please take the.
Right.
Yeah, please go. I know you want to say something about that.
I actually told my principal that if it were up to me, um, because this school was in the desert, okay, um, and because really I felt as if that particular school needed to look at green technology and really just kind of love their environment, right? And
Awesome.
it's hot all the time there. I mean, it's not a lot of rainy days there. I said, I would never have these kids sitting in a classroom all day. Like, as a matter of fact, like I have been imagining school outside of the classroom way before COVID. I would have bring the kids back and have them sitting outside all day because there's no rain there. And if when it does rain, it is like literally about 10 days out of the school year. And so there was really no reason for them to be inside of class all day. We were going outside all the time.
Yeah, exactly. So and these are the ideas. These are the revolutions that we need to practically start bringing into the way learning has been administered. Even in the schools in Nigeria, in Africa, and globally. All right. So so much you've done. I put in a lot of things, and like you mentioned, that I believe that we need to align the entire school activities with the evolutionary trends in the world. All right. So we need to. You mentioned something that there was a site where your kids had to upload their stuff and they were able to make money from what they have created. Yeah, that's a war word. I mean, that's a war lot.
Yeah.
So now, kids, I feel this is really going to inspire the kids a lot. Yeah, because
Yeah.
they know, oh,
Well, I mean, think about when I first asked them what was, and and I think that goes back to my first quote, because that was right around the time when I actually read that quote. And I said, wait a minute, how do I switch this project around? And I said the way I would improve upon that project for next time is actually to embed them into the artist community. We were trying our best to get
definitely.
somebody from the artist community to come in and talk and show and everything, but I think we would have actually had embedded into the artist community the next time we did it, and actually like have them go, because they have art festivals and all sorts of stuff, and had them actually
Mm,
go
mm,
to the art festivals and really present their stuff there too. But it started to really pick on me. Like, this is the difference between, when I say the entrepreneurial mindset, right? It's the difference
yeah.
between knowing what I need to do with the work that I have done. They thought the work that they thought that was not work. They thought that that was
Mm,
just them having fun and drawing and dot, 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 right?
wow,
No, I
wow,
said,
wow.
we've already done the work. So now what can we do with that work? Which is why we created the book, which is why we started to do the art. So they were like, oh, I guess we do have to sell it, because they said, well, we just get the
Wow.
artists get a job. No, no jobs, no. And when I remember a grandparent, when she saw the video and saw all of the artifacts that we had, she saw the book, she's looking through the book, she's reading the book with her grandkids' own words and picture, right? She's looking at the website. I had grandparents just crying, and they said
Wow.
the reason why they were crying, the reason why they were crying was because they said, when I was little, I loved art. And and I think if I had this, if I knew the possibilities of what I could do with my art, I would have done it. Do you see what
Exactly.
I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah, 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 yeah.
I
That's
would have
true.
done it.
That's
And
true.
she started crying, like, who knows? And she said,
That's
who
very
knows
true.
where my life could have been if I knew this?
Wow. Yeah. So you see what's happening. So and that's why I also get passionate about this. All right. So
Yeah,
it's a concern that we have a lot of learning environments and learning systems that have been structured to kind of paralyze the potentials in some of these kids, all right, because of the way learning has been approached. And so I think for everyone that is connected, that can hear us, this is really a good time for us to review the entire approach to learning and teaching. All right, so it's about, because these kids, like I was training some set of teachers, and then I asked them, this is the question I asked them. Very funny. I asked them, I said, in your elementary school days, um, can you tell us about, striking learning experiences you had that you can remember? And you know what? Guess what? Yeah, most of them couldn't really figure out something tangible or striking that happened with them, in those days. And then I said, cool. Now you see where we're coming from. Now, and so even now, you need to be very careful to ensure that you create learning experiences that these kids will look back in their own future and say, oh, thank you, dear teacher, for taking us through this path. Thank you for showing us this. Thank you for allowing us. Because if you just go ahead with the whole idea of the coming to class, the putting the notes and everything, and just doing the test and taking the grades and everything, but we need beyond good grades, the A's and everything. These kids need beyond this good grades in their whole world today. All right, it doesn't determine the relevance. It doesn't determine how much they can become in their own future. All right, so we just don't want to provide an atmosphere for them to be able to do the text and because most of the schools, you see, that's what they're all about, and then they're
exactly.
celebrating it. Fine. fine, it's good, good grades, nice, and all of that. But beyond that, the world we live in today is showing us that beyond good grades, these kids need to be ready. These kids really need to understand, the 21st century learning design, and be able to, position themselves in, as global citizens, and be able to maximize opportunities and do so many things that are really critical and very important. So, and I'm glad we're doing this. I'm glad we're having this conversation, and I'm glad, what you've painted this morning has practically shown to us another side, another world of learning. All right.
I
This
will
practically
I
shows
will
that.
be I will be very upfront. Testing, and I'm going to get into my equity side here, right?
Okay.
Testing and banking information in children is a post-colonial apparatus that has been
Hmm.
placed into our community schools. It is a way of controlling and colonizing our children. Okay. Um, our children are tacit learners, and not only just our children, Black children, and brown children, all children are tacit learners. They are holistic in learning, and in order to get to those deeper levels of learning, we have to start teaching them in this new way. Now, I will be upfront for those administrators out there, okay, for those teachers out there. This type of learning style is not going to bump your grades. I mean, they're not going to bump your test scores up. Okay. In my idea, in my world, testing is actually detrimental to our children, and it is now beginning to be a harm, because the reason why most principals and administrators do not want to switch over to this, and teachers, because it will not give them that return, that ROI on the test score, right? But when we look at
Yeah.
America's test scores state by state, only 30% to 40% of the students are actually passing their tests at meet
Wow.
standard or above. I don't know what it is
Wow.
in your country, but in America, it's only 30 to 40%. So what happens to the other 60%? What gifts do they have, right?
Hmm.
And they've tried their best to try to um, find the research and test and find the research that says that this type of learning it bumps your test. It doesn't, because a test will not show the deeper layers and the deeper learning that is happening. It would take a
Exactly.
longitudinal type of situation. You would have to follow a whole cohort, I believe,
Hmm.
in
Hmm.
order to
Hmm.
find that connection. But I will tell you, just from being at home with my daughter this year, okay, I see the thinking, and hopefully these words will resonate with you, because it's changed it's totally exploded my head. Okay.
Wow.
When
Yeah.
it comes to this, my daughter does coding classes, virtual one-to-one coding. Okay. She's 6. And she's creating apps and everything. And I would say that about a month into her doing coding, the teacher started doing these little quizzes where it's A, this, B, this, C, this, D. Then I started teaching her how to deduce and how to find the correct answer and da 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 da. I mean, it held me up for a whole month or so. And every time she took her little quizzes, she would get frustrated. And one day she got frustrated, and she turns and looks at me and says, "Mom, why do I have to choose the right one? Can't I just run each code, debug the code?" She's using their words, "and then it'll be fixed. Every single one of these are correct if I get a chance to debug them." Mind blown. I looked at the teacher. I said, "Do you get paid for giving her tests and these quizzes?" And the teacher said, "No." I said, "Then no more quizzes. Done." I said, "You should know what she's doing. You should know what she can do and what she can't do by her doing it." And if she doesn't know how to do it, you teach her again. And she's creating these wonderful apps now, and she's working, and she's not stressed out over, oh my gosh, I got to get ABCD right. Blew my mind.
Wow. Wow, that's interesting. That's interesting. All right, so I know a lot of educators out there have this fear, and and that's one of the reasons why we put this program together. Is to inspire you, is to see possibilities, to see realities. We intentionally use the word realities. All right, so you can get inspired, you can see what's happening. It's working. I mean, this is working. This style of learning, this world of learning approaches is working. It's functional, and it can work in your school. All right, it can work in your school. So once again, Mary, thank you so much for such an awesome and amazing time
Thank
with you.
you.
Thank you for sharing with us a whole lot of this. All right, so so this program is monthly, and okay, we should have the second speaker now, and we're gonna have you again. We hope to have you again, join us and come share more of all of this wonderful stuff you're doing to inspire us over here too again. So once again, Mary, thank you so much for your time. Thank you. Glad to have you. Yeah. So bye for
Thank you
now.
so much. Have
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
good one.
Yeah. You too.
All right.
Yeah. So once again, hello everyone. I hope you've been having fun. I hope you've been enjoying the session. So this is 2021. This is 21 years into the 21st century. And then any school that exists in any part of the world today should really be running the 21st century learning design, should really understand the 21st century learning design, and should function as one. It pains me so much that we have so many schools today. I mean, so many. I wish I can get a proper research. I wish I can be able to lay my hands on records and really put, and because we seems to have a large number of schools that are just not aligned, all right, with the 21st century learning design, all right, that are not aligned with the fourth industrial revolution, that are not preparing their kids for the fourth industrial revolution, that are not even aligned with the evolutionary developmental trends we have in the world, schools that are not aligned with the world, what is happening in the world. And so what are we preparing the kids for? What are we preparing the kids for if the whole learning experience and everything doesn't show the kids what's happening and what's obtainable, the realities in the world from the perspective of the 21st century learning design? All right, so stay connected. So right here, we are supposed to have Sally on the show, but Sally won't be able to join us. But he has someone to represent her on the show, and we have Grace on the show to represent Sally, and so it's still yeah. Hello, Grace. Can you hear me? Okay, I cannot hear you at the moment. I can see you, but I can't hear you. I think you might want to check your audio or something. Okay, I still can hear you.
Can you hear it?
Yes, yeah, I think it's okay now.
Hello?
It's okay now. I
Much
can hear you now.
better.
Yeah, much better. I can hear you
Good.
now. All right, great. All right, so we have Grace on the show. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for joining us in this session. We are most glad, we are most excited to have you join us in this session. And so we've been discussing about 21st century learning design and realities. Trying to get participants to be inspired. As you are also going to be sharing, scenarios of the application of the 21st century learning design, and so that can be like a take home, and then everyone is fine. So once again, we are glad to have you on the show. Yeah, we celebrate you a lot. Thank you for joining us. And so because of time, I'm just going to hand over to you, so that for the next 10-15 minutes, you can take us on this journey. We'll be glad to go on this flight with you, and all right, so thank you so much, Grace. Thank you for joining us. So this is where I hand over to you. I'm going to, I don't know, would you like to share a slide or something, or you just want to make it discussion?
Okay, I'll just discuss. I think the best thing to
Just
do,
discuss.
Edibo,
Okay,
is
all right.
just,
All right.
yeah, to start from the very beginning. In terms of education, you need to remember that our learners are pre-programmed. So we tend to always believe education is a classroom setting. Instructional learning is what our learners are used to. And that is the area where they actually set their minds to learn. what happens is, in the 21st century design of information is being accessed on multiple sets of platforms. So the learners are always getting information. However, the new area of getting the information to the learners for structured learning in education is a real stumbling block for the education environment. And this has got to do with that old classroom design, the pedagogy in which learners take in information and step by step analyze that information and put it into critical thinking is not where the new technology is actually ready to bridge the gap. The new technology is providing content that is structured in a way where the consumer needs to know what they want. So you need to remember, a young child needs structured education for logical process flows. We're taught how to brush our teeth. We are taught how to clean our rooms, go to school, be prepared every single day. And in terms of technology, if you don't know what you want, you will not get the right content at any given time. It doesn't matter how many tools people give you, you will not get that content. So where we are in the context of education is to ensure that when a child is given access to technology, it is structured so that the child can take on new learning, structured information to make logical process flows so that they are equipped with new skills for the new world. And the reason why learners struggle is because the screen is seen as entertainment. It's a wow factor. It's happy times. It's not necessarily the place where they're going to get structured content and have to learn and assimilate. So for the longest time, we have had access to technology in Africa, but we don't necessarily have that natural progression to education through technologies. So if you want to then look at EdTech solutions, one of the biggest stumbling blocks EdTech providers have had is that the people that have developed the technology have no understanding of how a classroom works, no understanding about how a young learner takes in content, no understanding about where the EdTech itself is more of a wow factor than an education tool. So we need to bridge this gap. EdTech solution providers need to work with communities in education so that the EdTech solutions provide education content. If we can assimilate these two elements, then we're going to have an EdTech pedagogy, which is the learning steps to take technology into an area of learning, such as the classroom, and have outcomes where now young modern children are able to say, right, a technology can provide structured education outcomes. It's not just for entertainment. It's not just for my pictures. It's not just a show and tell that I have new technology. And this is more critical for the African learner because we haven't had the slow steps of the Eurocentric space of getting time to ease into technology. We have jumped many steps. So for most of our learners, we are consumers and we're not developers. And this is where STEAM learning comes into critical focus, because if you can have a focus of STEAM learning in the school classroom and you ensure that our learners, like the Chinese learners, when they see a new phone or a new gadget, they think about how do you unpack this and find out what makes it work versus how do you polish this and keep it safe for a longest period of time. The two elements are different types of behavior. The one is pure consumer behavior and the other one is a developer's behavior. And we want our children to become developers of new technologies. We don't want them to sit in a mindset of continuing to consume what has been designed for other markets. We want our young children to design and develop and create for the African market, for the African context. Every single continent has different social issues and social illnesses. And if you have to consider the illnesses of the African continent being solved by Africans, it is our children that have to learn to innovate in these new technologies with them to support us, to pull us through to the 21st century. environment. It is our children that have to remain on the continent with their brains, with their abilities, to be globally competitive from the African continent, and not to go out necessarily and join the diaspora and be onlookers from afar about Africa. We want to talk with knowledge from Africa, within Africa, and we want to develop within Africa technologies and innovations that bring us through to the next level of development and innovation. So EdTech is critical. EdTech is where we live, and it's where we need to involve learners from the youngest age possible. In our DI model in solution making, we're looking at the young child. How do they play? How do they evolve? How do they artistically bring their creative thinking and marry it to technology? We want children to feel like when they see something out there, that they can animate, they can create games, and they can create solutions when they see their brothers and sisters struggling. And if you look at the components of STEAM, a lot of people ask, how does science, technology, and engineering then involve art? What people don't realize is an architect has always been taught to be an architect in a critical traditional sense. And often they are not a creative thinker. But these are old teachings. These are old school environments. So an architect was never allowed to design creative, wow factor, happy areas. They were always thinking about structural components, linear elements. And we want to make sure that you don't leave innovation out of STEM. STEM is a critical technical subject matter. So you're talking about maths at its best, and you're talking about engineering and structured science. But all of those elements require innovation, and innovation comes from the arts. We want the children that don't think like other children. We want the children that always question why the teacher does things the way they do. We want to encourage that learner to continue to question the world on the rules that they have set. And to do that, you need STEAM, which is a combination of creative thinking with structured science for new solutions. And that is how that story unpacks. I'm not so sure if you have any questions around these elements. So I'm going to continue. I'm hoping that as we go through, you appreciate that our learners will always be the first point of departure. In education, you cannot design and hope the learner will come through. If you do not give learners an opportunity to actually think and tell you how they are thinking, you leave them out completely. When you leave learners out completely, you then are looking at them as receptors only. And when you teach a generation of receptors, you will have challenges. You will have adults that are waiting to be told what to do. And we do not want adults anymore that are waiting to be told. We want adults that can challenge current concepts and develop new ideas without feeling that they'll be penalized for being critical thinkers, for being innovative thinkers. And for that, we need to create African policies and African environments that bring that learner out of their little hole where they're told to stay put and follow the rules into a creative space where they are given the opportunities and the platforms to be as creative as possible, as out there as possible. One thing that people do not take into consideration is if you look at all the strong innovators and strong rule breakers in our societies of technologies, the Elon Musks, the Gates, all of these people were not comfortable in a structured school environment. And because they were uncomfortable in a structured school environment, they went to seek new opportunities. But too often, we are penalizing our African learners for being different. So we don't want them to be penalized. We We want to have the stepping stones on how to make their thinking work and how to make their thinking come through and of what we need in this new society that we're building, because that is how we're going to build the African Prius, as it were. We need cars that do not run on oil. We need farms that have no genetically modified seeds but are bringing out critical resources for our communities. We need engineering that allows us to build technologies that are cheaper and structural environments that are cheaper to manage, that are not just plug and play from Western solutions. And already you can see that our children are so eager to be part of this world. So it is up to us, the adults, to create environments where our children are actually given the opportunity to do this, given the leverage to do this. And if you do not allow that, then we are back to our old ways. And that would be very, very sad, because generationally, every single year, over 100,000 new learners join the adult population, asking, how can I make a difference? If you think about that number of 100,000 new learners joining the population and asking about how it can make a difference, and us as adults telling them to go get a job, I almost feel like we're doing a disservice to creative children, because go get a degree is not enough of an answer anymore. Go get a job is not enough of an answer anymore. We need to say, come, here is a place, here is a hub. Let's create. Let's inspire one another. This young person only has the first 10 years to play and be innovative and to design. Look at the path of life. We need to bring them in from the age of 12 all the way up to the age of 21 with creative and innovative thinking. Because if we don't do it during this age period where they are able to connect with us, we will have a problem. And the problem will be that when they become 25 and older, they then join normal societal behaviors. They join normal societal thinking where they think they have to toe the line. And they think they have to raise families and just have their children, which we all want to do. But if we then can innovate during those younger ages where there's so much energy and so much power in a child to create, then we will have something to look forward to, because they will not be fearful of the world as adults to toe the line. They will be creative and innovative even as adults. And that will allow us to create new businesses, to create new platforms, that will allow them to be dual and in sync with their Western counterparts in terms of bringing their ideas forward. So I do believe we need to change the way we communicate with this child in the classroom. I do believe it's important for us to create STEAM solutions. With the Destination Imagination package that we have alluded to in bringing into Africa, yes, once again, we're borrowing from the West, but what they are allowing us to do there is they're allowing us to allow the learner to create a solution through their own community. How do they, using the resources they have, look at these challenges we give them, where you give the learner the opportunity to create something with limited resources. When you say there's finite resources, people evolve. It's like saying there's no bread today and your mother goes and buys flour and yeast and a child learns for the first time this is how bread is made. Bread does not necessarily come from a shop counter. It can be made at home. This is the same concept. We now need to create. Okay. Edibai, I'm not so sure if there are any questions.
Yeah. There's a lot to talk about. Grace, there's a lot to talk about. Yeah, because you've mentioned a whole lot. Okay, I know probably you don't know, so much is going on in the chat room that you don't know. So much is going on. People are giving a lot of responses, and so I try to put some of them on the screen so you can see what's
Yeah.
happening. And sincerely, you've said a whole lot. I'm going to reiterate some of the points, and then
Yes.
uh, so you started by talking about equipping these learners with new skills for the new world.
Yes.
All right, because we are saying for the school administrators that are connected to this session, and we know some might will also get to watch this session later. All right, so what we are saying is that we need to take a rethink now, and sincerely we need to review the entire system and everything we are doing.
Mm.
We need to review the whole thing. All right, because if the entire learning experience, if the K-12 system we have in Africa, from the elementary to the middle school to the high school, all right, at the end of the day, is not able to produce learners that can come out and say, after this 12 years experience, I have been under
Mm.
this learning, whatever it is, I'm now able to, I've been inspired enough. I don't think it should be too much grace. Would 12 years be too small to inspire a learner to be able to come forth with a skill that is further
Mm.
going to, improve the economy or something? Do you think it's too small?
No, no. The problem we have is we have old curriculum that is running through the schools
Old
and a lot of
curriculum.
traditional,
Mm, mm,
yes,
mm,
old curriculum.
mm,
So you're spending a lot of time learning things that are so accessible today and not considered new learning. So we have had such a lag in developing the new text of what should be in school curriculum. What we found is if you cut out 50% of the old curriculum, you can introduce new innovation curriculum and you can introduce new content that will then allow you during the 12-year schooling period to devise a new outcome for each and every learner. Remember, self-awareness is a critical learning factor for individuals, and we've allowed ourselves through the old traditional outcome to make that the responsibility of the learner after school. However, it is necessary for the learner to become aware of oneself at about the age of 15. And the reason why it's necessary is because we now have these areas where we say, are you a scientist? Are you an artist? Are you a mathematician? Are you, what really are you going to be? And it's so unfair to ask the child this when you haven't given them radius of how much potential there is in this world. So when you ask a child this and the child only sees lawyer, doctor, artisan, you are refining and making their options so small that when they become an adult, a young adult, and they go to university, they are confused for 2 to 3 years. Absolutely confused. So
mhm,
when we get them and deal with them at the area where they need a decision quickly, there's anxiety, there's panic. What am I going to do? What am I good at? These are things that should be part of curriculum. Every single generational push has to help a child find themselves as quickly as possible. Their talent has to come out as quickly as possible because then you can nurture
mm,
that child in the direction of their talent.
mm. Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah. Okay. So we need to go as soon as possible. So
Yes.
you also mentioned that the degrees and go get a degree isn't enough anymore. I remember you mentioned that word, so I quickly put it down. Yeah, so that's exactly the word that we are hearing. All right, so for every educator out there, we are saying this is really a time. All right, so we are 21 years into the 21st century, and then we really cannot afford anymore to sit back and watch the destiny of these kids,
Mm.
of these learners. That's the part that pains me a lot. We have
Mm.
millions of kids, all right, that have been underdeveloped. All right, we have millions of kids that are not being helped to find their place, because most of these kids have got a lot of amazing potentials, and it's just simply
Yes.
because
Yes.
they have not been in the right environment, all right, for all of these potentials to find expression. And so we're
Mm.
trying to see how we can, and it's just all about the learning experience and the learning environment. All right, if there is a change in the learning experience, there is a change in the learning environment, these kids will
Yes.
start getting inspired and they'll begin to do better. So we are saying to every educator out there, we're saying to the school administrators that hold on. This is a time to get back into the 21st century learning design. All right.
Mm.
This is the time to consider the core skills: creativity, communication, collaboration, critical
Mm.
thinking, We need to build learning experiences that only addresses this for beyond this forces. We cannot get into independent learning, innovation, entrepreneurship, and innovation to and other skills. And we really need to focus our learning on this new set of skills, all right, that we see
Mm.
that are becoming, really demanding in the world that we live in today. No more should the
Mm.
school, or no more should schools just exist and just keep doing their thing and not minding what's happening in the world. So right now we're saying the first thing schools need to do, they need to understand that we live in the midst of a world that controls us. All right, so whatever it is that is happening in any school, if it doesn't, we need to bring the word into the school. If whatever is happening in
Yes.
the school doesn't align with what's going on in the world, then that school is just wasting time. They are wasting the life of kids they've put in the school, and that's what we're saying. That's what we're saying. So it's really a time, that's what we're starting this year with this kind of conversation. And that's because we can begin to
Mm.
plan, begin to prepare for the new year and see how we can do something different this year. So thank you so much, Grace, once again. Thank you so much for the
Thank
insight,
you.
for sharing this lot of experiences. Thank you so much. It's so much appreciated. Thank you. We are so much glad to have you on the show. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Take
All right.
care.
Yeah, and you too. All right. So once again, dear participants, we need to round up the session right away. So I'm reaching you from EasyDIGI studio. So I just took off this my green screen behind me, and this is what we're saying. So this session is all about the 21st century learning design and realities. Now at EasyDIGI Tech Solutions, we say that we are your trusted partner in building an ever evolving 21st century learning system. All right. So we understand that we have a large number of schools, a large number of schools who do not understand the 21st century learning design. All right. A large number of schools where blended learning is not done well, where blended learning is not even available. A large number of schools, and that are really concerned that need to be reached. All right. So and this is what we do. This is what we do. This is what we do. We provide that support. We provide that. So when we meet with schools, we run a test. We run a test on your learning environment. Want to see what you have and what you don't have. Want to see the level of digital literacy and everything. And after running the test, we come in. We take a setup training, on blended learning, and let you understand the with some modules and just to get you started at the school, with blended learning based on global standards. Yeah, the blended learning that we talk about is based on global standards, and that's why you see we we have a research support team, consisting of education professionals across the continent that we meet with, we discuss often and often, and trying to ensure that we have a community of schools, we have a community of educators, all right, that are not left behind. We want to ensure that our community of schools, our community of educators in Nigeria and even in Africa at large, all right, can match up, all right, in the global space. That's very important to us. That's very important to us. So the schools we're dealing with, we're showing them blended learning based on global practices. All right. So I remember yesterday night, I still had to have the training with the school, and so we are addressing learning design, and that's it. That's where it starts from. We look at more matters and more issues, like schools having a learning design. That's very important. See, what we're saying is the way we run school now has to change. Has to change. No more running school for the sake of just teaching. Or the no, 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 no. The 21st century school is going to be different. It's really going to be so much different. It's really going to be so much different, and that's what we're saying. We're talking about innovative instructional strategies. That's what we're saying. It's really going to be so much different, so much different, so much different. So for everyone that has taken out the time to connect to this session, thank you for joining us. Again, want to say a big thank you to our speakers, to Mary from USA and to Grace from South Africa. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for contributing so much to this conversation. Yeah, the 21st century learning design and realities. All right, so much has been said in this session, and want to encourage, like we said, this meeting was structured to inspire. Want to encourage everyone, that has joined us. Please get back to your schools and begin to change the thing. Get back to your schools. We are open for consultation. We are open to discuss with you. We are open to take your school to another level. That's what we do. We partner with schools to change their learning environment. All right, based on global practice, based on global standard. That's what we do. That's what we do. So we're open to discussion. We're open to conversation. All right. And from time to time, we're going to be having the speakers to come around. All right. So we're going to have quarterly. We have virtual edtech summit for school owners. That's majorly for school leaders. All right. So while every month like this, we have this virtual educators conference. All right, so every month we have it. We have the one for February coming up at the end of February, and then we're gonna keep you posted. All right, so thank you so much once again for joining us. Thank you for your time, and we'll call it a day for today. Goodbye. Thank you for joining us. Thank you so much.